So this message has been on my mind. You're being called, mainly because the state of the earth right now. We just had this Hurricane Helene that just rambled on up and tore everything up, and we know that climate change is a fact. I mean, the predicted solar flares are going to intrude on the weather pattern. We've been hearing about it. We see all the turmoil and chaos from those that would like for us to be afraid. So I'm going to ask you, when was the first time you ever became aware of a new thought teaching? You don't have to tell me, but just, could have been decades ago, it could have been last week, but you probably remember the book or remember the place where you heard something and said, this makes sense. I'm home now. And that's what, then you began to change. And you began to learn all the things that we teach here and other places teach, the books you read teach. It all has a common thread running through it. That we are powerful beings, powerful beyond our imagination. And that's what it's prodding you to get to. Well, time's up, folks. It's now or never. You're being called. You're being called to put into practice all those things that you have learned. You've got to get your foot on the path. If you remember in the Bible, it tells us in Genesis that we have dominion over the animals. Jesus told us, all these things that I do, you will do also. I mean, he wasn't just shooting the breeze, guys. He was telling you the truth. In Mark, it tells us that he had dominion over the storms. He walked on water. Well, now's the time. In order to walk on water, he had to first get out of the boat. So, get out of the damn boat is basically the message. And why haven't we done it? Do we feel unworthy? Do we feel we're not good enough? Are we afraid to call attention to ourselves or seem powerful? Well, I ask you, and I bet that this is true for each and every person here, each and every person that's listening to me over the World Wide Web, however that works. In your lifetime, you have accidentally done something powerful. It's unique to you. Glenn likes to talk about when I told the hails to stop hailing. And for me, it didn't feel like anything. It felt like back in the days when I had a house full of teenagers, and they'd negotiate or they'd sneak out or they'd do this or that. And, you just sort of tread lightly because there's so many of them, they outnumber you. And it's scary. But there comes that time when the ruckus is so loud and you bring up all of your mom energy and you get all squinty-eyed and you say, "You stop that right now!" And they obey. You could have been doing that daily, but no, it comes from something, and you bring that up. Well, this is the day. We were in our kitchen when we lived over by Lake Country, and we had a big skylight in the living room. And the hailstorm was coming, and it was going to be bad. We knew it was coming. We didn't have a garage, but we took the good car, and we took all the furniture covers and everything and the quilts and we put over the cars, so we knew it was going to be bad. So I'm in the kitchen and it's hailing and I'm afraid the skylight is going to break. And I was just like when I'd get all squinty-eyed with my kids, I hollered out, "You stop that right now!" And it stopped. You know, it was accidentally, but I called forth that power that was in me, just like you accidentally had a moment of power, and that power is always there. It's always there. Well, it's time. We've got to start implementing that because the world needs you. The world needs us. You're a creator. Now, when you first got into this study, you were awakening. Now it is time to bring it into realization. You're stepping on the path, you're revealing it, like Marianne Williamson says. It serves no one to play small, and you've never been small. It's time to put into implementation all the things that we've studied in these books and hearing these speakers and going to church. They've told us over and over again. You know, you breeze through life, you know, and you have this interest out here in this stuff, this mystical stuff, and so but you are tied up in your life. You're a homemaker, you're a teacher, a caregiver, and all that takes time. You're a provider. You've got to live in the world. You know, that's what we as metaphysicians it happens to us. We've got one leg in the world and the other leg in the mystical. The paths are merging. Right now, the consciousness is being changed. So we've got to bring forth our power. You know you're powerful. We're in the middle of a renaissance now of consciousness raising. It's happening. The ascension is happening whether we like it or not. Everything is lined up, all the things that we've heard about, and the weather patterns are changing. Our consciousness is changing. There's new technology, AI. Well, we've always had AI. But we have to do now. We have enough. So this is what I want you to think about doing. I remember when I lived in Florida a long time, I mean, there was a hurricane all the time, it seemed like. Probably not, but there was always a hurricane. And that was my first exposure to metaphysics. I moved into a house, and next door lady had a metaphysical bookstore. And she taught me this technique. And when a hurricane came, she would say, let's just imagine all the love that we can be and put it on the end of an arrow and shoot it into the hurricane. Make it a habit to do that for these storms. You're a powerful being. And if we all do it, you know, or we know how to throw protection around ourselves. I mean, not long after we learned how to get a parking space, we learned how to put the white light of protection around us. All right, when you hear of these storms and so forth, put the white light of protection. It'll be like this. You know, you hear about we're all on the grid. With little lights on the grid, we're all connected, we're all one. It works like this. Just imagine that there are these kids playing in the yard, and they have this big blanket that they're throwing up and down. There's one kid at each corner, and all the other kids are underneath, and then they pop up. And what happens? The blanket raises. If we all do this, our consciousness is raising just as real as that blanket is raising. And we're raising everybody with us. They can't stay down there. We're shooting upwards. We're dragging them along, kicking and screaming, whether they like it or not. But we are in charge, and as an enlightened being, it is our obligation right now to act, to send energy to protect Ukraine, to dispel the storm. You know, we can do those things. This is what you're being called to do. For all these years that you've been studying this information and packing it away and just letting it be like another compartment in your life, we can't do that anymore. We've got to merge. We've got to consciously act to every thing that we know that we can respond to. You know, maybe we can't run for office and change our little corner of the world, but we can change. We have the power to stop a storm. If the population did that, the storm is simply an element. We are part of the God consciousness, and we can change things. Each of us is being called to do what is ours to do. PJ talks about that all the time. And so this is a short message, I think. But we have some action steps that we can take in remembering to do this consistently. So if we have a climate event, take action. Shoot those arrows in there. Throw protection around where we know the storm is heading. Then speak to Source and instruct Source energy to do this, to protect. Glenn likes to talk about the Lord's Prayer, that God or Jesus was telling us not what to pray, but how to pray. And we issue a polite command into the universe, and we have that right. If we want to be good enough to be of service, I mean, you can't stay in the first grade for the rest of your life and expect to get a job. You've gone up through the grades, you graduate, you go to work. We got to go to work. Then the other one is to know. Know who you are. A powerful being on this planet. You're a being and you're a doer also. You can't be, you just have to shut out the fear that is they're trying to throw at us. There's nothing to fear. You're better than that. We're better than that. There's nothing to be afraid of. We are the ones that know enough to act. And trust your mission. Trust why you were born to be here at this time in the history of the earth. It's not an accident. You are the cutting edge of the change of consciousness. And do something about it. Basically, my whole message today is simply this. It's what my stepdad, Jess Galima, I know you're up there. This is what he had a jillion sayings. But when he wanted you to take action, he would say, fish or cut bait. That's it, folks. Fish or cut bait. And